Welcome to the Photography Opinion Podcast. We discuss all things photo, video, and camera related. I'm Ben Lucas.
And I'm Stuart Marlantis.
And this is Photo Op. Hello, podcast listeners. We are back. You guys seem to enjoy our last episode of hashtag Stop Clickbait, so we are doing it again, and this time the tables have turned.
Oh no.
So, I have rounded up a bunch of articles. So these are all headline articles that are very clickbaity and can be answered incredibly simply. And we are going to put these websites...
Freudian slip there.
Websites to shame. Shame and sight apparently mixed together. I'm not going to edit that out, though, because it's appropriate. We are going to put these websites to shame because they really need to stop with clickbait. So if you enjoyed our last episode and you enjoyed this episode, there is one particular website we kind of targeted for these two, but let us know what your most clickbaity website is that you would like us to pull articles from next in the comments, and we will do that if you enjoyed it. Sure. So, Stuart, we are going to do lightning round. You answer the clickbait article questions. Are you ready?
Yes, I think so.
All right. Excellent. Apparently, people are very obsessed with landscape photos, so we're going to start with that. Question number 1. What is wrong with my wide-angle landscape photo?
Well, I haven't seen the landscape photo, so I'm not sure. But my my guess would be framing issues.
Yes. Yep.
You're too low, you're too high, you don't have a good subject, you're just shooting the same, like, ultra-wide, boring, meandering landscape as everybody else. There are many things that could be wrong.
Yeah, the article itself was actually shooting low makes the midground disappear.
There you go. Framing.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Why is stormlight incredible for landscape photography?
Lots of fun dynamic range.
Yep. Landscape photography. Why is vertical sometimes better than horizontal?
Because sometimes you want to frame your subject in a way that lends itself to vertical, like any vertical versus horizontal picture.
Wow, what a novel concept. Okay. Do you hate your own photos?
Yes, definitely. Every day.
How is perfectionism dangerous for creatives?
It makes you not do any work.
Yeah, pretty much. Why are you frustrated as a photographer? Wow, they're really targeting you this week.
Why am I personally frustrated? Because I think my work sucks. See above. Do you hate your own photos?
Yeah, I mean, why that warranted 2 completely separate articles? Sure. Talk to your editor and get your stuff straight.
Just
okay.
beat me down.
Is telling people to zoom with your feet bad advice?
No.
There you go. How bad is shooting in JPEG?
Pretty bad. Deliver in JPEG, shoot in RAW.
I asked that one last time, but it's worth repeating. I think there might be a couple of those. What is the most common photography mistake?
I would say not shooting.
I like it. Is social media ruining photography?
Mostly.
All right, this one is a 2-parter. I'm going to break up the headline into 2 parts because it's a little leading the question.
Okay.
All right, part 1. What is really important in photography?
Output, I would say. There's a theme here.
Part 2. Why then are we so obsessed with gear?
Because we want to believe that if we buy that new piece of gear, all of a sudden we will be satisfied with our own work thanks to that piece of gear.
And are you?
No, never, unfortunately. I mean, now you have a fancy toy you can look at, but then the problem becomes, it almost becomes even worse, because then you have this new fancy piece of gear, and you say, oh, I should really use that. Yeah, I should really use that new piece of gear. Oh, and I should really use my old piece of gear too. Now I've got double the things that I should feel like I need to use on a regular basis.
All right, moving on. Do you really need a gimbal? This article was about IBIS versus the DJI Ronin.
Do you really need a gimbal? For certain shots, yes. It makes it... I hesitate to say, but it makes it a lot easier. IBIS is nice, but the quality of IBIS varies from camera to camera. Some cameras have much better IBIS performance than others. So if you're shooting a lot of video, you should own a gimbal. They're cheap enough now.
Yeah. And by the way, IBIS, for those of you who don't know, is in-body image stabilization. All right, moving on. This one is regarding the Fujifilm GFX 100 pixel shift mode. Do you need 400 megapixels?
If you have a project that actually requires 400 megapixels to resolve, like you're printing it the size of the United States, then sure, I guess you need it in that situation. In any other situation, probably not.
Do you need smart objects?
Need? No, they're really useful though.
You do need them. I will fight you on that, but we can
Depends
we
on
can
the
hash
photo.
that one out later. Is medium format worth it?
Probably not is going to be my answer to that. We're getting really, really high resolution stuff in non-medium format bodies nowadays. If you need medium format kind of resolving power, you don't really need to go there
I think
anymore.
field of view is probably what medium format is being more useful now. Because, yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Every megapixel race is done. We don't need it anymore.
Yeah.
Where did all the 360 cameras go?
They're still here. They're around. They are kind of difficult to work with. They're hard to shoot. It seems easy, right? Because like you got your entire surrounding area in the frame all at once. But then the problem is, where do you put yourself? Like, how do you move it around? How do you get dynamic shots? How do you edit it? Do you leave it as a 360, or do you use it as a larger sphere to crop in on? And then you have some quality loss. They're hard to edit. They're hard to view. They're for very kind of specific uses, so they're not that popular. You might be surprised though. A lot of people use them and then cut them down into a two-dimensional image. So more people are using them than you might expect, but they're not like on every person's list of gear.
That's really funny. Did you read that article? Because that is literally exactly what they said.
No, but I own a 360 camera, so I'm familiar with the process.
All right, how much lens sharpness do you need?
As much as you can afford.
Not that much. You don't need that much. You're gonna post it on Facebook anyway.
Yep.
Whatever. Is the Sony A1 the perfect camera?
It's the perfect camera for me right now, but I won't buy one. It depends on who you are. I mean, yes, it is a really incredible piece of technology. It's very expensive, but it has some issues. Like I still have issues with Sony's menus. They're not as bad as they used to be, but there are other cameras that do it a lot better, notably Panasonic, especially for video. It performs really well. It has really impressive burst. I mean, 50 megapixel. It does 8K video in the camera. If you use a dummy battery, you can essentially record 8K infinitely, which is awesome. 4K 120 is awesome. So it's so new right now. Like it just came out. It was basically just announced. We haven't seen all that it can do at
as
this
of
point,
time of
but
recording, all the photos are still under embargo, so
Yeah.
no one's actually allowed to talk about image quality yet.
Yeah, and Sony needs to kind of kick the tires on it a little bit, push some updates as they find bugs and stuff. I'm sure there are going to be things that aren't super perfect right away, like almost any camera. But is it the perfect camera? I would say there isn't a perfect camera. Is it probably the most technically impressive camera at this point in early 2021? Yes, most likely.
Can you afford a $6,000 camera?
No, I don't really want to spend $6,500 for just the body, but
Yeah.
it's really cool. Although you could almost get like the A7R, the latest A7R and the latest A7S, like both of those cameras for the same price. So maybe
Speaking
that's
of
a better
another
buy for you.
Sony camera, is the 8K Sony A9 III going to be the Canon R5 killer? That's a very specific matchup.
Is brand camera going to kill other brand camera? Most likely not. I mean, if you're likely invested into a lens standard, and you're probably not going to change as a result. So is the Sony going to be a Canon killer? If you shoot Canon, probably not. If it's just like the most incredible, theoretically perfect thing ever, maybe it'll convince people to switch, but most likely no.
All right. Have I already found my dream camera?
Yeah, no. This is a
the
difficult
article
one.
was more of like a op-ed talking about people having gas. But,
yes. I would say
which is gear acquisition syndrome, for those of you listening, not flatulence.
Yeah. I would say similar to like is there a perfect camera? Is there like a dream camera? No, there's always going to be better technology down the road. When the A7 III came out, that was essentially my dream camera at the time. I still really like it. Am I going to buy an A1 Alpha 1? Probably not, at least not right now. So have I already found my dream camera? You've probably already found the camera you need to do the work you want to do. And you should focus on that and not whatever your dream is. Because, yeah, my dream camera would be something that shoots 32K video at 1,000 FPS and, you know, does, you know, 5,000 megapixel stills at 100 FPS bursts. Like, you know, whatever. Like, you can dream anything. So you found the camera that you need. You don't
Sounds
need a
good.
dream camera.
I like it. All right, so last time you asked me, is the death of the entry-level DSLR upon us? And a new article popped up with the headline, is the death of the DSLR upon us?
So this depends. Not having read this article, I'm not sure. But if you're talking about mirrorless versus traditional DSLR, traditional DSLR will probably go away. I would not be surprised if it's within the next 5 years that that companies stop producing traditional DSLRs almost entirely. So is the traditional mirror DSLR death upon us? Probably. Is the death of, like, you know, DSLR style cameras in general, even though those might technically be mirrorless cameras at the end of the day, upon us? Definitely not. Those are going to be needed probably for the indefinite future. So, I mean, there's just physics that keep big cameras being something that you need. So
I'm totally okay with, you know, mirrorless or whatever, as long as it's still full frame and suits my needs, and not EVF. We had this conversation last time. Don't get me started.
This is a question of this is really more of a technical question than a form factor question. Is the DSLR form factor going away? No. Are technically what are truly DSLRs going away?
Coming out of cameras?
Sure, yeah.
Maybe.
Probably.
Yeah. All right. How do you feel about Nikon closing in Japan?
Wow, this isn't a yes or no question. I think it's unfortunate, but that's just kind of how manufacturing works nowadays. Nikon has a really proud history. I don't think they're going to go away anytime soon, but I could be wrong. I think it's unfortunate that they're closing manufacturing in Japan, but not like, you know, like China makes great quality stuff too. So I'm not going to be that person who's like, oh, no other country is capable of making great cameras and great glass. So, yeah.
Indeed.
It's unfortunate, but that's just how it is.
Why should you consider embracing prime lenses?
They force you to think about the process in a more kind of manual, creative fashion. You have to zoom with your feet, as we've talked about before. I mean, you just can solve problems more creatively. It forces you to solve problems more creatively than with zoom lenses, perhaps. So, yeah. That's where I go with that.
What is the holy trinity of lenses?
All right, so the holy trinity is something that people talk about a lot. It's basically a collection of 3 zoom lenses that are all f2.8. So it's a wide zoom, a standard zoom, and a telephoto zoom. So generally something like, in my case, my Tamron holy trinity for my Sony camera would be my 17-28, my 28-75, and then my 70 to 200-ish. Those all are kind of vary, but that's the general kind of zoom range you're looking at the Holy Trinity. Yeah,
for me, it would be the Canon 14-24, the 24-70, and then probably these 70. Is it 70 or 75? Whatever, 70 to 200.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah,
70 to 200.
I think on old Nikons it's 75, but on new Canons it's 70.
And why it's called the Holy Trinity is basically if you have those lenses, you can shoot in most light conditions and with most, you know, zoom levels.
You can shoot at any zoom level at 2.8.
Right, exactly. So it theoretically covers everything, or 99% of what you'd want to do.
Yep. So get those 3 lenses and you never have to buy gear again, right? That's what you're saying?
Sure.
How good is the Nifty 50?
It is awesome for how cheap it is. Get one, because it's if you're starting out, it's cheap and cheerful. It performs really well.
Let me
Great bang for
rephrase.
your
This
buck.
article was specifically talking about the $2,000 high-end 1.2 Nifty 50. How good is the $2,000 Nifty 50?
It has horrible price to performance compared to a 1.8 Nifty 50.
Yeah, accurate. Would you switch to Final Cut?
Back in the Final Cut 7 days, yeah. Now, no. Stay on Premiere or look at DaVinci Resolve, depending on what your kind of preferred thing is, what things you need.
Yep. Can open source software beat an Adobe subscription?
Boy, I wish it could. In some cases, yes, but like as an overall package, Adobe just kind of kills it. They've got too much stuff. They're too good. They've got too much institutional awesomeness happening in their software. Yes, there are problems. Yes, it's really expensive. But I mean, I spend the money on them every month, and I will do so for probably my entire life. So
yeah, I don't like paying subscription fees either, but it is what it is. Does your creativity require investment of time and money?
Yeah, definitely. I mean,
you're telling me I have to spend time and effort and money to get better? What is wrong with you?
Yeah, I mean, is this a question? Like, you could argue that, like, yeah, when you have solid gear, which doesn't mean you need to buy more gear for it to be solid. You probably already have solid gear, but if you've got the tools you need to do the things you need to do, then maybe it doesn't necessarily require more money, perhaps, like in that moment, but it definitely requires time and effort and thought. It might require some money. But yeah, does your creativity require investment in general? Yes.
All right. What are focal reducers?
Focal reducers are a really neat way of usually converting full frame glass to a Micro Four Thirds body / sensor, and retaining the same or very close to the same focal range that the lens originally had.
Will upcoming MacBooks have USB ports?
Like USB-A versus USB-C?
Yeah, will they be bringing the USB port back?
They'll always have USB-C ports or whatever the current standard is. Will they bring USB-A ports back? Probably not. You need to let that ship sail, people. I mean, USB-C is intended to be a standard for a reason, so that you've got the same cables, you've got the same connectors for everything. And yes, it sucks to rebuy, it sucks to have to change over, but one of the big problems, okay, the USB this is a bigger thing. The USB group that decides all this stuff, yes, they have hugely botched USB-C, the speed standards, the charging standards, the naming is awful, but in general, kind of everything is meant to work together, or at least be easier to deal with, and hence the need for USB-C. So you just got to bite the bullet and convert to USB-C at some point. Will upcoming MacBook Pros bring USB ports back? I hope they have USB-C ports, or whatever the standard is if you're listening to this in the future. Should they bring USB-A ports back? No. If you want USB-A ports, get a docking station or some sort of converter. That's just the world we live in now. And you potentially don't even need to do that. I mean, there are even flash drives that have USB-C ports on them and USB-A ports. So, whoa. I mean, just... This isn't expensive. This is like a $20 thing. You just happen
to have that on your desk, which is impressive.
Yeah. I mean, that's just it's just the world we live in. USB-C is not crazy anymore.
Convert. All right, very last question. What gear are you hoping to see in 2021?
Cool gear that I won't buy. I don't know. The Alpha 1 is really interesting. I'm hoping that I don't see a Sony A7 IV that's as awesome as the A7 III was, because that will make me want to buy it. I'm hoping to see, I don't know, lots of kind of different, like, I think the category for me more is ease of access, like stuff that is good price to performance. Like chasing the ultimate expensive thing like in the Sony Alpha 1 is awesome, but more price to performance for more stuff. So there's lots of video gear that's still really expensive that hasn't come down in price, more like external recorders. Like I'd like to see more of a budget external recorder. I'd like to see easier and cheaper access to high speed. So like high frame rate video or slow motion, alternatively. I mean, there's lots of stuff, but really there are a few like specific pieces of gear that I'm like, oh, I really want X thing. because in general it's just kind of all cool to me, and I'm going to try to avoid buying it anyway. So yeah, easier access, like better, cheaper lights are always good. Better, cheaper video gear is always good. You know, better and cheaper is good. It allows people to do creative things for less money. So that to me is the idea. I'm hoping in particular though to see less supply constraints. You know, COVID has really killed a lot of stuff. Like GPU prices are just nutty right now because people are buying them and flipping them. That kind of predatory flipping is really awful, and it holds people down that can't afford to pay those hugely inflated prices. So I'm hoping to see in general supply chain stuff ease up a little bit in 2021. So
excellent.
There you go.
Well, that was our second #StopClickbait episode. We hope you enjoyed it, and maybe that'll save you from clicking on some of these headlines in the future. If you have any ideas for websites that are way too clickbaity that we need to throw under the bus, leave a comment. Let us know if you enjoyed this, where we should draw our next source of #StopClickbait inspiration from. And yeah, when you see a clickbaity article, answer it, and then follow up with #StopClickbait, because websites need to put out good content, not
don't fight with people in the comments
content.
But leave a funny clickbait response comment. That's always appreciated. I love seeing
always
those. Thanks for listening to my rants on these questions, and we hope you tune in next time for whatever we're talking about next. I don't know, we'll discover it together.
We'll get there. If you have questions or ideas for future episodes, you can email us at hello@photo-op.show.
Watch us on Ben's YouTube channel at NomCreative,
as in Om Nom Nom.
Share this with a friend, and you can listen to Photo Op anywhere podcasts are sold.
Or download it. 'Cause it's free.